But now in this situation, Lomachenko, you know, again, why Walters needs to get more money? For what? He's not a champion. Lomachenko coming into his weight class, for what reason? So he needs, Walters needs to give money away because he's getting all those advantages. Now he's getting all those advantages, money, plus Loma is giving him another 300 grand on top of it.
You think it's being...
And he's not taking?
So you believe Loma should be the A side? Loma should be the A side in the fight.
It's 100%, of course.
You don't feel it, then it must be too real to touch. You'll never in your life try to knock the truth. The illest shit ever. Get ready, 'cause this is about to get heavy.
Trying to keep me out, trying to censor what I say, 'cause they don't like what I'm talking about. So it's wrong with the media today.
Prove I'm lying if I ain't correct.
What up, Fight World? It's your boy Ego, and I'm back with some more boxing, new media. Now, I told you when I started with this new media stuff that it was going to end careers and damage credibility, and that's exactly what it's doing. With new media, the whole basis is for the boxing truth seekers, not the groupies, not the racists, not the people who, no matter what you show them, they're going to always stick with their initial argument. Nothing like that. This is for people who really want the truth, and that's how I present it. Notice I'm not getting on these videos and yelling and cussing and calling these people names, and yet people still say, oh, you're hating on Canelo or whoever the fighter is. It's not hate when you're representing yourself as a professional and speaking facts. Hating is saying, oh, gay runner, KFC Floyd, and all this because you don't like the man as a person, or as a fighter you don't like his style. That's hating, because you're going out of your way to condemn somebody. I'm giving you guys facts, and that's what I'm going to do in this video. I want to talk about some numbers. We had dueling telecasts from HBO and Showtime. I want to talk about that, and more importantly, there's something else that I want to make and draw that comparison. So HBO had the main event, VASYL Lomachenko versus Rocky Martinez. I did a post-fight. Make sure you guys check that out. As you can see right here, Rocky got destroyed by VASYL Lomachenko. Spectacular performance, moving up, and he's now a champion. So props again to VASYL Lomachenko. For more, check out that full breakdown of that fight. Also, you had John Molina Jr., who upset Ruslan Provodnikov, who's tough in game, and he did it by outboxing. I did a post fight on that. Check that out. But those telecasts came on at the same time on opposing networks, and the numbers are back, and I want to talk about that. But before I start, just because I know this video is going to be a sensitive subject, I want people to realize, again, with new media, I'm not just telling you the things, I'm showing you. I'm showing you what I'm talking about. If I have a standpoint, I back it up and explain why I feel that way. So, quick thing on VASYL Lomachenko. This video is not a diss to him. He's actually one of my favorite up-and-coming fighters, and I like him a lot, and it's been the case for a while. So if a simple Google search of my channel, you'll see things like 1 year ago, VASYL Lomachenko shows shades of Floyd Mayweather and Willie Pep in dominant win, right? You also see videos like this, Ego birthdays 2 years ago. It only had this one I was getting like 805 views. Happy birthday VASYL Lomachenko, who turns 26, rapidly moving through the pros. Look, I was getting like 9 likes, and I liked one of them, and then 1 dislike, right? So you look at stuff like this. Thank you, Ego, great point. I had 16 comments. This is 2 years ago. Some people were agreeing Lomachenko, Keith Thurman, the future of boxing. Not too many people, though. Not too many people were commenting on Lomachenko. Like, as you guys can see, only 16 comments. Not too many people were talking about him. But, again, I was one of those people early on. So, this is nothing against VASYL Lomachenko. It's just a simple new media video where I have to draw this comparison based on the arguments that I was hearing about another fight. And let me talk about the numbers first, and then I'll get more into that. So these are the numbers. HBO beat Showtime with the cable viewership. Lomachenko versus Martinez. A stands for average, P is for peak. So the difference real quick is average is the more of the continuous viewership of people who are stayed tuned to that particular telecast. Peak is just like a mountain. At the highest point, how many people were tuned in at one simultaneous time. So average is more of a consistent number about how many people are pretty much watching the fight through its entirety. and peak could be like people who turned to the channel and watched it for a second, but it was the highest level of people tuned in at one time. So Lomachenko versus Rocky Martinez, that title fight, the average was 585,000 views, peaked at 613,000. So again, you can see it beat the Showtime telecast, which Provodnikov Molina averaged 465,000 and it peaked at 568,000. So let me be clear with this. Anytime you have dueling telecasts, anytime, usually, unless one card is just like pure shit, then you're going to probably be kind of split, right? But it's okay, because when I come up with examples, I give you examples that are fair. A lot of people, when they make their quote unquote boxing debates or boxing points, they'll take something like apples and D batteries that is nothing alike, and they won't try to get it as consistent as possible. Like they'll make a comparison to like if I'm saying Andre Ward did this number, then they'll compare it to Triple G's best number, where he wasn't competing with anybody. He wasn't competing with another telecast, which isn't fair, because when Andre Ward fought Paul Smith, he was competing with David Lemieux versus Hassan Indam, and more importantly, Broner versus Porter. So they want to take that low number, and they'll say, oh, look at Ward, he can't sell. But you have to take into consideration it was competing with two other fights, one in Canada with Hassan Indam and David Lemieux, which was a good fight. It's probably the best fight of the night in terms of competitive fights. And then you also have Broner Porter, which was highly anticipated. So you can't say, oh, Andre Ward, look at his number, because that was the first fight on BET. Plus, he was competing with two other bigger fights, right? But when I give you guys examples, I try to come up with examples that are comparable and fair. Keyword being comparable. Let's continue. So Lomachenko Martinez 585, peaked 613. Provodnikov Molina peaked at 568. The average was 465. Now, VASYL Lomachenko, his manager Igis, was in the Bay Area for the Ward Barrera fight. We talked to him. This is a few months back, because if you guys remember, the fight in talks was a Lomachenko versus Nicholas Walters, the Axeman. Walters was he had already moved up, and Lomachenko was going to move up and follow him and potentially make that fight. Now, there's a big hoopla a few months ago about who would win and what the purse should be. And basically, HBO, with their budget cuts, they offered 800, I think it's 800 or 850. I think it's 850. We'll use that. 850,000 to VASYL Lomachenko, and they offered 500,000 to Nicholas Walter. That is what the deal was. And Walters was like, no, I'm being lowballed. That's not cool. What has he done to get that much more than me? Whatever the situation. As a result, Lomachenko says, I'm so confident that I could beat you that if I beat you, or if I lose to you, then I'll give you $300,000 out of my purse and put that up as like kind of a side bet. And we can talk to the promoters, have it written into the contract. Now, there was a big mess from the boxing world and the boxing fans about, why is Walters not taking it? Is he ducking Lomachenko? And yada, yada, yada. Listen, some of you guys, this boxing ego is a small business. So I understand the art of business. I've always worked. I've always had some level of ties to the business world. Nobody in the business world is going to want to take the short money, period. It's what I said then, it's what I'm saying now. I don't want, like, if someone offered me, like, hey, if you produce 5 videos, we'll give you this lowball number, and then we'll give you an extra if people like the video. No, I need to get compensated for my work. The time, the labor, the editing. It's not like, oh, you produce it, and if we make it to the Billboard charts, then we'll give you more money. No, it does. No one's going to want to take the short money, anything that's not guaranteed. That's why Floyd Mayweather, being boxing's best businessman, and you can hate Floyd all you want, but it is what it is, and his bank account and his past paydays show that. He's fighting guys like Robert Guerrero, interim champion at the time, not a big household name, and he's still getting $32 million guaranteed. So if Guerrero knocked him out, $32 million at least, not including the pay-per-view back-end money and all that. If Robert Guerrero and Floyd Mayweather fought to a draw, $32 million guaranteed. If he beats Guerrero by decision, by knockout, by technical draw, decision, anything, $32 million guaranteed. So again, Mayweather understands the business. That's why he's not willing to budge. He wants his dough up front. He wants to know how much he's getting, because win, lose, or draw with Pacquiao, I'm getting this amount of money. And that's the smart bet. Yet you had some fans in the comment section who were accusing Walters of being the ducker, and their basis was that VASYL Lomachenko was such the A side that he needs to bow down and take this side bet. Now, let's take a trip down memory lane. There was another fight last year with Nicholas Walters and a guy that beat him twice in the amateurs, Miguel Mariaga, that was on HBO, Boxing After Dark. Wasn't even a title fight, right? Because I think Walters lost his title on the scale in that particular fight, if I'm not mistaken. No title fight. And it was competing that same night with a Showtime telecast, which was Deontay Wilder versus Eric Molina. And it was a title defense for Wilder back home in Alabama, right? Look at the numbers. These are the numbers. And they were reported by Dan Rayfield of ESPN. So you guys can do the research if you don't believe the numbers that are written. But these were the numbers that were reported. And I didn't have the peaks and all that. But it doesn't matter. This is enough. And this will suffice to prove the point. Nicholas Walters versus Miguel Mariaga was on the same night as Deontay Wilder's fight. It averaged 580,000 views on HBO. That particular night, Showtime beat HBO because Deontay Wilder versus Eric Molina, which a lot of people said was a cherry pick and they weren't going to watch it. It's funny if you think about it, how all these things that people say in the comment section, it never holds true. They're like, oh, Mayweather versus Berto, this sucks, dude. I'm not going to watch this junk. And then it did better numbers than a Pacquiao Bradley. It did comparable numbers to Canelo versus Khan, but that was the fight that they hated. Mayweather Berto said it was the ultimate cherry pick. Same thing with Wilder versus Eric Molina. Oh, this is such a cherry pick, but it beat the HBO telecast, which also had Felix Verdejo on the undercard of the HBO bout on the Nicholas Walters card. But anyway, Wilder versus Eric Molina averaged 678,000. Now this, I'm just showing you what it was that given night. But this is what I want to talk about. The HBO number versus the HBO number. Nicholas Walters, everybody said he's clearly the B side. And back then, I even said to people in the comment section, is what makes him such the B side. He has a win over Nonito Donaire. He's the only one in history in boxing to stop Donaire. Not even Ringenau did that, or some of the other hard punchers that Nonito Donaire fought, right? He beat Vic Darchinyan with easy work. You look at Vic Darchinyan had just come off of a loss not too long ago to Nonito Donaire, but he was clearly beating Donaire in the rematch, right? So you look at it, what makes him, and this at the time he was negotiating with Lomachenko's team. He had already beat Mariaga, so avenged the amateur loss, and he did 580,000 views, where the average for Lomachenko Martinez, which was a title fight, only did 5,000 more. So you guys tell me what it is. How is Lomachenko such an A-side? He's a great fighter. He's splendid. His angles are phenomenal. He's one of my favorites to watch. But this is just simply revisiting a fight that should have happened, that could have happened, and the excuse that Nicholas Walters needed Lomachenko and Lomachenko doesn't need Walters, because I don't see that. I never seen Lomachenko as such an A-side. I'm not talking about in terms of skill. I don't care. This video is not even a prediction video. I don't care who wins the fight. I'm simply saying I want to see it. But it does not make sense to paint Walters as a ducker and say he's clearly the B side. This is what's wrong with boxing. A lot of people want to say, the media, fans, other YouTubers who make videos, they want to make these statements like, oh, Canelo's the A side in this, or this person's the A side this, A side this. And a lot of these people really aren't that much of an A side as much as the fans paint them out to be. You know what I'm saying? Like, Canelo's the A side over Golovkin, but it's not like he's the ultimate where Golovkin has no pull and he should get 10% and Canelo should get 90 or whatever Oscar De La Hoya said about the split, which he had a crazy split like 80-20 or something crazy. The Golovkin don't deserve that. You know what I mean? Just the same Lomachenko versus Walters. Lomachenko has single digit fights. He's a great fighter, single digit fights though. So he's still paving his way. His future is really, really bright. But he still has to fight the guys like Walters as well. And I'm not saying he doesn't want to fight, because it looks like he wants to fight, but none of this side bet. I just read an HBO interview with, or actually an interview article with Bob Arum, and he's like, HBO has to come up with money for Lomachenko. And that's just really what it is. Like, you can't shortchange. Lomachenko Walters is a great fight. You could make a strong argument for either winning, right? Lomachenko's angle, size, skill is a problem. He's a threat to anybody in or around his division. But Walters is also big. He's athletic, good jab, good body punching, strong, looks pretty tough. Took Donaire's best shots. Even though Lomachenko knocked out Martinez, I'm not going to be 100% sold on his, like, I don't think he's just as vicious of a knockout puncher as some people make him out to be. I mean, you can't sleep on him, clearly, but I think he's like maybe a couple notches above an Amir Khan. Amir Khan, you got to respect his power. Like, if you're Luis Collazo, you're not going to just walk through shots and not get knocked down or something like that. But I don't think he's just this Golovkin type of knockout artist. That's just my opinion. He's a great fighter. I'm not taking anything away. And again, I don't have to prove anything. You guys seen the videos. I've been making videos 2 years ago about Lomachenko when none of y'all was even talking about him, right? So it is what it is. But my whole basis is this: 585,000 average versus 580,000. To me, that's not that clear of a distinction to say, oh, this person is clearly a draw and clearly an A-side and all this stuff, like some of the people were saying. So hopefully for his title defense, we can get a title fight like that. Nicholas Walters versus Lomachenko, which is a phenomenal fight. Either guy can win that fight. Lomachenko will probably go in as the favorite. See how realistic I am? I just want to see it. That's the bottom line. So I'm sick of the fans claiming what is the case, but there's no facts behind it. That's the reason for new media. So for all the people that said Lomachenko is clearly the A side and clearly the fan favorite and all this stuff, you have to prove it. Men lie, women lie, numbers don't. And to me, the numbers don't really prove that he's that much of an A side over Walters, because they did in the same tax bracket of numbers, and they were both competing with a Showtime card. Walters and Mariaga was competing with a Wilder Molina, and then Lomachenko Martinez was competing with Provodnikov versus John Molina. So they were both fighting against Showtime cards with a Molina on it. But see, this is the big difference. VASYL Lomachenko also had Felix Verdejo, just like Walters had Felix Verdejo on his bout too. So that's a wash, because Walters versus Mariaga had Felix Verdejo on it. Same with Lomachenko Martinez. So you can't say, oh, because you added Felix Verdejo, that's why his numbers were this in this fight, because they both had Felix as the co-main event. So that's a wash. They both had that opportunity or luxury to add like seats or interest to the card. And then furthermore, you got to look at this. Lomachenko was moving up in weight to fight a champion, versus Walters was fighting a guy who many people hadn't even watched as a pro. The only reason it was a good backstory and a compelling backstory is because the guy beat him twice in the amateurs and was a known puncher, right? But most people hadn't seen Miguel Mariaga, right? So that's a difference. You would think that Lomachenko's numbers would be substantially better because he was moving up in weight to fight a known champion who's been on the Mayweather versus Berto undercard and fought Orlando Salido twice. Been in there with Juan Carlos Abregu. Rocky Martinez has also been in there with Mikey Garcia in the peak of Mikey Garcia's reign before his legal trouble. So again, you look at it, what's more impressive? Walters versus Mariaga doing only 5,000 average less than Lomachenko versus a known champion. Mariaga is not a known staple. Again, the backstory was compelling because he was a puncher, he seemed game, and he stopped Walters from competing in the Olympics because he beat him in the trials or whatever. So let me know what it is. How is Lomachenko the supreme A side or whatever you guys were saying a few months ago versus Walters? Because when I'm looking at the numbers, I don't really see that. He's a great fighter. You can pick whoever you want to win. Let's see the fight. Drop it in the comment section. Make sure you like my video as always. Hate, comment, and subscribe. Till next video is Ego signing off. So if you enjoyed this video and want more content like this on the channel, you can show your appreciation by going to the PayPal donate button or the YouTube support button. And you can donate any amount that you feel is equivalent to the value of this video. Much more to come. Thank you guys for your support. Boxing Ego, the future of boxing.